Hi everyone. This is what happened to me when I got government housing, part 104. On the 24th of the 4th, 2018, I received a report from the Consumer Affairs about the back fence. The report stated that the landlord may have breached their duty to maintain the premises in good repair, which I already knew, of course. But getting this in writing probably meant that I would have been able to claim compensation for the loss of privacy and the fact that I couldn't use my backyard and everything else. But the truth was that after the way I had been treated by the people who worked in the justice system, and after having my claims for compensation refused, and after the tribunal members had been so nasty and so personal towards me, I knew that even with this evidence, I still wouldn't have been awarded compensation. Other people would, but I wouldn't. And that was an idea that I couldn't get used to, but that I had to learn to accept. I also received an email from the housing officer saying that the back fence would be repaired on that day, which was interesting because what normally happens when I ask for a repair is that they ring me, and when they can't get me by the phone, they use that as an excuse not to do the repair. But I think what happened in this case was that because Consumer Affairs were involved, they had to organise a repair, and they emailed me and they got it done. And I wish that it worked like that all the time, but it doesn't. I was also still intending to start work on my claim for compensation, but I hadn't been able to force myself to do it at that stage. On the 25th of the 4th, 2018, the back fence was replaced. This was a huge relief to me as I could finally open my windows and pull up my blinds and walk around outside, all of which was impossible when the fence was down. The workers left the clothesline down, which was annoying, but that was typical behaviour of the people who attended my home to do repairs. I had a look in my letterbox, and there was a letter from the housing office about the laundry. This letter was a note, and it was really weird and really abstract. There was no context to this note, and what was written on it was really offensive and really confusing. The note stated that the installation of washers and dryers had not been approved by the department, and that the department was not liable for damage to the washers, dryers, or personal items, and that the department may take back the laundry at any time and request that the tenants remove their washers and dryers. And clearly, excuse me, this was bizarre. And to be honest, it sounded illegal as well. And it also sounded like another instance in which I had enough evidence to claim compensation because of various breaches of my rights as a tenant, but because lawyers had consistently refused to represent me, I knew that I wouldn't have been able to do that. I also knew that if I took it to VCAT and spelled out my evidence in a clear manner and referenced any relevant sections of the Residential Tenancies Act, that the tribunal member would still refuse my claim for compensation. So I didn't bother. I had been taught to tolerate injustices against me, and I had been taught that I was powerless against people in the justice system who felt that they had the right to yell at me and to deny me compensation for things that were clearly wrong. On the 26th of the 4th, 2018, I printed out some letters asking for repairs to be done to my unit. I hadn't asked for many repairs when the respondent was living at the block, but because he was gone, I felt like I was now able to do so. I also wanted to make a complaint against the VCAT member who refused my claim for compensation for my washing machine and dryer, but I didn't have the emotional strength to do so. And given that I was suffering from an illness and I couldn't afford to feed myself properly, I guess I didn't have the physical strength to do as much as I wanted to either. On the 27th of the 4th, 2018, I posted a letter to the Director of Housing asking for repairs to be done to my clothesline, my letterbox, to my front and side doors, and to the side fence in my backyard. I sent this letter by express post, which was more money that I had to pay out of my own pocket. I also went to the pawnbrokers to borrow money to cover the cost of all the printing that I needed to do for my application for compensation. I think I was able to do this because I had paid back the previous loans that I had, and now I was repawning my items again. On the 30th of the 4th, 2018, I finally posted a letter of complaint to VCAT about the member who had refused to compensate for me for the washing machine and dryer. I also wanted to start on my application for compensation, but I didn't know what was required and what order to put my evidence in. I felt isolated and helpless, and that's probably because that's exactly what I was. On the 2nd of the 5th, 2018, I went to Officeworks and I did a lot of photocopying and printing for my application for compensation. On the 3rd of the 5th, 2018, I was exhausted and not sleeping, but I continued to go back and forth from Officeworks to do photocopying and printing for my application for compensation. By the 4th of the 5th, 2018, I was running out of money as I had so much printing to do. I had printed out A4 photos of my evidence so I could present my case in court, and that had cost me a lot. I also needed to pay for all the other expenses like food and washing, and all the work I had to do to pay for the court hearings was coming out of my pension money, and it was so hard for me to make ends meet. But I kept going because I was sure that I had enough evidence to prove what happened to me. And I was sure that I would get compensation.